And University of Pennsylvania transgender athlete Leah Thomas made her way into the headlines, breaking college swimming records, sparking conversation about trans athletes competing in sports. And while some applaud Thomas's accomplishments, our next guest argues Thomas is destroying women's swimming. Joining us now to share her thoughts is USA swimming official Cynthia Millen. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Cynthia, you have been an official, a swimming official for 30 years, but you resigned. Lay it out for me. Why did you decide to resign? What led up to that resignation?
Well, Angela, bodies swim against bodies. Identities do not swim against identities. And what was happening at UPenn, and by the way, USA Swimming is the governing body for all of swimming, NC2A, Paralympic, et cetera. And what was happening at UPenn was that a person who basically has transitioned, Leah, still has a male body. Men always will have an advantage over women in swimming. They have larger lung capacity, they have larger skeletons, they have larger hearts. Obviously, this cannot be taken away by 1 year of hormone suppression drugs.
And that brings us to my next question. I mean, once we found out that you were coming on, we started to dig into the NCAA rules regarding swimming. And we found this on their website, just in regards to testing in terms of transgender athletes. In the case of testosterone suppression, we have a graphic for you. The institution must submit written documentation to the NCAA of the year of treatment and ongoing monitoring of testosterone suppression. So basically, you have to have, 1 year of some sort of testosterone suppression, and then someone can compete. Now, what are your thoughts on that, Cynthia? Because this athlete, Leah, she did meet the requirements for the NCAA.
Right. The NCAA rules are totally inadequate. You have a male who has totally matured, and the suppression drugs do not take away the size of the skeleton, the size of the lungs, all of the capabilities that this swimmer has developed over the years. And so even if Leah would take suppression drugs for several years, it's not going to reduce the size of Leah's skeletal structure. It might reduce the musculature a small amount, but nothing else. So the advantage that Leah has coming into the years in which there would be the taking of suppression drugs, it's not going to change the body at all. So you are always going to have a male body competing against females. Females always will have a disadvantage by the way that women's bodies are structured. And this can't be changed by suppression drugs. Well, the NC2A is wrong here.
Well, so what is the, how do you rectify this? I mean, because so much of the focus right now has been on hormone treatment, whether you look at the NCAA, if you look at the Olympics, they're all focusing on that. But you're saying even with the hormone treatment, there is never an even playing field.
No, bodies compete against bodies. And so all competition, just as USA Swimming has done it from the time a little boy or a little girl starts swimming, they're divided by boys and girls and age groups. It must be based upon sex.
Well, in a recent
male sex have to compete against female sex, and that has to be the way it is.
In a recent interview, Leah Thomas shared the reaction she received from her team. I want you to take a listen to this.
The team has been unbelievably supportive since the beginning. Teammates and coaches as well. I feel very supportive, just treated like any other member of the women's team.
Well, what do you think? What are some of the coaches saying?
The reaction really behind the scenes is entirely negative towards this. We've been getting a lot of contact from former collegiate swimmers. Actually, a group of women swimmers has started a petition. Officials have also agreed. So while I think that the current swimmers are afraid to say anything to Leah and afraid to be public about this for fear of backlash, they overwhelmingly behind the scenes people are against this, from officials, coaches, former swimmers, all the way down the line.
One quick question. When we start talking about these issues, there are a lot of words that get tossed around, and people say you're anti-trans. Are you anti-trans?
Heavens no. First of all, when you're arguing a point, it doesn't need to be an ad hominem attack against the person, right? And we should be able to discuss important issues without attacking the person. And I would never attack Leah. Leah's a precious child of God. But the issue here is more important. There are girls who are being treated unfairly because a male body is competing against them.
Well, thank you so much for taking time, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you so much.